Okay, so here's L.F. Nelson doing the screencast commentary, part 2 of the filmed Socratic Circle seminars. So we'll take a look at the second inner circle and dramatically reading. The question of subversive literature changes.
To draw your attention to the final scene, and I'm going to just read a couple paragraphs. I may have read this out loud in class today. Just read it back again because we're talking a little bit about disposable relationships, right? And I think on social media we see that, right? The way people flush each other sometimes. Here we see Titus getting emotional, and he's crying by her bedside. So I'm wondering, how do you interpret the ending? Because M.T. Anderson doesn't really explicitly tell us, right? He shows us through indirectly how the character acts. So I'm wondering,
so here, of course, what I'm looking for is the student's ability to pick up on the author's extreme dramatic irony. By reading it out loud, my hope is that they actually latch onto the author's intentions here to show the difference between what is actually said by the characters and what the author is intending to show about Titus's real understanding. I do think I did a good job with the reading, so I was a little disappointed with student remarks from the beginning, which actually look at the humanization of Titus. So I'll let you watch this.
And I'm on the third paragraph at 297. And I whispered, Violet, there's one story I'll keep telling you. I'll keep telling it. You're the story. I don't want you to forget. When you wake up, I want you to remember yourself. I'm going to remember. You're still there as long as I can remember you.
Good job establishing eye contact, using volume,
I know you so well.
and vocal variety to deliver this.
This is the story.
In a kind of surfer dude, douchebag voice.
Sit by her bed, and I told her the story of us. It's about the feed, I said. It's about this normal guy who doesn't think about anything until one wacky day when he meets a dissident with a heart of gold. I said, set against the backdrop of America in its final days. It's the high-spirited story of their love together. It's laugh-out-loud funny, really heartwarming, and a visual feast. Cap escapades and learn an important lesson about love. They learn to resist the feed. Rated PG-13 for language. I whispered, wild sexual situations. I sat in her room by her side, and she stared at the ceiling. I held her hand.
Here students
on a
look like
screen.
they're relatively well engaged with the reading.
Liquidation announcement for blue jeans, right, at the end. So I'm wondering, how do you interpret this? Is Titus going to continue the revolution? Or has he been converted by the feed?
Here I'm going to pause. I think it was good to leave that silence, not to rephrase or recast the question, just to hold on to it like that in a thoughtful way. And the question is picked up right away.
By the feed, that they never think of anything about that is true. They don't think about the consequences. And for the first time, Titus realizes that she's dying and she's going to die. For the first time, there's no interaction between him and the feed. It's just him and her, and he realizes the consequences of everything that happened. Because
here again,
before there was always the feed.
Nodding my head,
everything was normal. It's
hands
like
on my
when
chin.
Tells you, be careful, something's going to happen.
Thoughtful listening is my posture as a teacher.
Now you realize how powerful it was and how great it is, and it just hit him. So I'm not sure whether he will continue the rebellion or not. That's dies to self-belief. But I think that was one of the messages.
Well, I disagree with you because I felt that
Dan explores the initial interpretation. Anthony politely
felt nothing
disagrees.
like the book. Like the book, I felt that their love was fake.
And here
when he
we're
said
seeing
that
right
in
away
the end,
the second
it just felt
perspective
like
emerging.
It was the feet speaking. Like maybe he saw this, but reading the book, I didn't feel that they loved each other for real. I felt like they used each other. Maybe. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I agree a bit more with Sasha, but I think that a bit earlier on in the book, he just realizes that Violet is going to die, and he just says that. I thought it was really like.
But right away, this
to
is
say
a really
that.
interesting inner circle. We have the first two interventions outlining radically different perspectives. And what we're going to see throughout the circle then is the play between these perspectives and see how well participants can flesh out the arguments on either side. So here we see Olivier going back.
She was going to die, so it's not worth it to go out with each other anymore, and she's just not worth the trouble and everything. But in the end, he just realized that he made a mistake, and it's the first time that he feels something, and that he realized that he really loved Violet, and he's just so sad because he can't take everything back. And the reason why Violet died is because she was not really considered a good customer to the feed, and it's as if in this world it's saying that if you're not a good consumer, well, you don't deserve to live. And that's something that I think he sort of realized at the end, and that I think he will try to change it somehow.
Yeah, but still, the whole story that he tells.
Again, here we have that alternative perspective being reiterated by the same player, Anthony.
Doesn't relate to the book.
And this is very effective, persistent return to that alternative
It always felt
interpretation.
like you didn't really care.
Again, I resist the temptation to intervene here.
Sometimes he thought she was crazy, and when he saw her, he was like attracted by her, but by her looks, and he went to talk to her, but he didn't feel like in the end also like he left her for Quinty just because she was dying. Like I don't know if he really liked her, if you really loved her, I think that he would have stayed with her. I don't know what you think about that.
I agree with that. Like, we have other stuff to do to care
I think that the age has nothing to do with that. He's just like ignorant and he doesn't care about anything. Yeah.
So here we see Dan exploring cultural influences. And this opens up a new series of perspectives. Again, the objective here is to open up the conversation, right, to new voices and new views.
I'm just going to forget about it. Let's not forget that he said that he shouldn't even go out with her because he was going to die. I mean, now she's dead and he's going to probably forget about her in like a week or something. And not going to leave the rebellion.
That's possible, yeah. And that would suggest that this book is not subversive at all. That everything's going to be forgotten about the resistance. Titus.
But here I actually do pick up the line of conversation to reiterate that opening question about subversion versus pulp fiction that will just be easily forgotten by readers. I think it was well done because very quick and short. I'm kind of linking the conversations. But again, we'll see how this pans out here.
It is subversive. Because after reading it and you see it, you like realize, oh, for me, it sparked like things in my head and I thought about today's society, like how to compare it, how this is like a dramatization of what we're actually living. But I think that for like Titus, it was not subversive for like what happened.
Well, like you said, I don't think it was that much subversive. I think it was more criticizing the population rather than the government, because, well, yeah, you can criticize like the government to act on big corporations and everything, but I
Here
think
Dave is
the
identifying
true enemy in this book is the big
larger
corporations and
issues,
companies
right?
that
Corporate
own the
empire,
food, because
paper
it's their fault if
consumerism,
Violet
media
ended
literacy.
up like she did.
So he's able to
And-
flesh out the argument about this not being subversive, while still concurring that, right, this is problematic, and this book is raising a kind of critical questioning that is important.
I think it's more criticizing the population too, because in the book, people like have lesions and they don't like realize how bad it can be, and they just have fake clouds, fake air and everything, and they don't really realize that it's a bad thing. And I think the book is trying to tell us to open our eyes and to act on our own, because we can't like wait for destiny to change. We need to like build our own future. That's what it was trying to say, and it's not really subversive because it doesn't want us to act on the government but on ourselves.
I can add on what you just said, and taking another point of view on the question Mr. Nelson asked about the ending. I feel like the ending is trying to symbolize maybe like what resisting, like what it does to you. Like at the end we're left with Titus and Violet is dead, and you can see like Violet was the one resisting and Titus was the one acting like with the feet, going with the flow. And I feel like it shows us that Violet died and resisting, it gets you nowhere. And
what I'm noticing here is really good discussion technique, Olivier, summarizing the drama over Violet's struggle with feed tech. Heads are nodding in approval, and it looks like he's able to kind of rapidly go over the story again, just reminding people of what the stakes are. And this again brings the circle into a new direction that is very productive.
We can see at that point, like she was talking with someone, and they were like, "We don't like the way you shop, and we feel you're not like as simplified as the other people in the population, and nobody wants to like help you and like invest in you because we don't like the way you feel." And the way she was acting, it was to resist, and because she resisted, that made like that nobody wanted to help her. And I feel like it shows that the book is not really subversive, and you shouldn't like resist like anything. And at the end, it leaves you with like Titus and no one else, and everybody will forget her.
To add on that, I think like the book in a kind of way shows that Violet couldn't carry the rebellion by herself. It's the book where leaded her. But maybe if the book continues and Titus does the rebellion and all that, maybe like it shows that sacrifices must be made.
Again, what I noticed was the outer circle taking notes on a lot of the comments that were said earlier about this book not being subversive. And again, we're moving into a new direction on this side of the inner circle. So just switch here as we hear a new perspective on this.
The most stubborn-headed or ignorant person can change his opinion, because to me the ending is a new beginning. This is where Titus he realizes how the world is, even if he used to be so ignorant, like we say, we think he's stupid and ignorant, yet he still wants to lead the rebellion, even if he's going to give up in a week. Like we don't know for sure, but at this moment he's full of.
Again, that's kind of interesting that Dan is playing the devil's advocate, expressing the view that the ending is a new beginning for rebellion, for hope, for Titus. I think that's a very interesting perspective, and again, he's using those discussion prompts to kind of explain his point of view, and it looks like he's provoking a lot of others.
World, and I think it was 72% that humans had defeated. There's another 30% left that have the knowledge to.
Just to mention, we've got about 2 minutes to close.
So again, just as I did in the last circle, I mentioned the 2 minutes to close, hoping that people are able to return to the two initial perspectives and kind of recontextualize them. And unfortunately was surprised to see that they were unable to see the two discussion threads and unable to name them in such a detailed way. So they just really stated vagaries as in the following.
The conclusion we can conclude that thinking, different opinions of whether he's gonna continue the rebellion or he's not strong enough. So I think it's good that he did that stuff there.
I think that the novel really sparks questions and debates like we've had during the circle, and we could go on, but
So instead of those vague statements, he steps up and asks people's interpretation of that last sentence. And this actually is what I might call a good icebreaker technique, right? Just to give a quick interpretation of something, get everybody's input immediately. But here it's used as a kind of ending, closing technique, which is also effective.
What was their opinion on the last sentence, the emphasis made on everything must go?
Well, when we talked about it in class, well, I think it was, well, I don't know. I think that everything must go is the Feed trying to tell us that even though Violet died, we still have to continue to be sheeps and to like be slaves to the Feed. And it's trying to, like, just with the pop-up ad, it's just saying to Titus that you need to get over it, it's not important.
So this summary remark by Dan, in which he interprets, right, that ending statement in two ways, as a triumphant pop-up from the feed or an ultimate warning from the author, does a good job actually of summarizing the two perspectives without explicitly saying that this is what people were doing in their circle. So they may be less aware of objectifying the dialogue, but they are able to actually call attention to it in a synthetic way, in their own way. So this is a nice way to come to a close. The atmosphere is very relaxed. There's a little bit of humor, and the participation was a little bit higher in this circle.
Yeah, like MC Anderson telling the readers.
So again, here I am smiling, shaking my head.
Something, but you can't change anything. You just have to change it.
Now I'm noticing that we need time for the outer circle comments. I direct those comments.
Thank you for those perspectives. Let's end the conversation there and get some of the
Here again, I'm asking for very pointed feedback that's different one from the other, which was helpful also
once again, try to add
in soliciting the right kind of feedback from the outer circle members.
Well, what I liked was when Vincent, like after that, he said that young people can start revolutions, stuff like that. So I like.
This is a great comment coming from Leia about the Hong Kong umbrella rebellion being started by a 14-year-old. And in a way, she's kind of continuing the conversation in the outer circle, but at the same time, she's validating Dan's optimistic view of Titus continuing the rebellion. So this is a nice kind of comment, although usually I ask the outer circle not to continue the conversation, but simply to comment on the conversation.
Yeah, it's not about age. Yeah. Maybe it's just about understanding issues.
I really like the fact that from the start people opposed to others' opinions, and like Sacha and Antoine in the beginning, they were.
So here I am being very frank and pointing out the two views that she just stated, and I'm just trying to restate it in a different way so that everybody can really grab onto it and understand it. And I think I did a really good job there, actually, in pointing it out and congratulating her. So there's encouragement and there's reiteration going on.
I think that there was many opposite opinions, like she said, on the ending, if Titus really cared about Violet, or if she counter and move on.
Statement, it was a very heated discussion, but I think that everyone always opposed each other in a polite and civilized ways.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we're able to consider opposite views without getting all heated up ourselves, right? That's very interesting.
Again, I see this remark as very positive, a way to validate the claim, restate it, shake it up, and give it a little body language to clarify it.
I like that people weren't scared to say what they thought. Like, the responses were almost like instant. Like, well, they were responding really quickly, but like they stayed polite and cut each other.
Okay.
At some point, they had like a little. I don't know what that was. Like.
Okay. But it's very spontaneous and fluid. Is that what
So again, what I notice here is the ability to kind of verify with the group that the comment was very fluid and spontaneous. And that's a nice way also to interact. So it's not just coming back to the teacher, but I'm also generating a consensus with the outer circle and with the inner circle themselves. So it's a nice way to end and kind of wrap things up by giving global comments that praise everyone. So that ends my categorical analysis of the seminar. I think generally speaking, very positive things are coming up, and can see that the conclusions on this will have to focus both on those positive things and some of the negative points.